Yeah,
Okay, we
done.
are recording.
Yep.
Okay, I am not going to bore anybody with an introduction or something like who I am or something. Uh, you should straight up start with questions. You can ask anything. CLAT prep, how's life, NLS, AILET, whatever you guys feel like. So anybody and we'll try to keep it a bit orderly. So raise your hands or drop it in the chat box. Don't speak over each other. Okay. Uh, Anybody wants to go first? Yeah. Okay. Tamagna. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, I'm Tamagna here. So
Yeah.
my question is, what is the starting point in our journey towards CLAT? Can you please provide some info on that?
Starting point. So my starting point occurred in class 11 when I realized that I wanted to be a lawyer in my be a lawyer and stuff. So as such, if you want a philosophical starting point, that was my starting point. But if you want a prep wise starting point, where to start studying from, and when I was prepping for CLAT and AILET 2020, I started with maths, my most difficult question, like most difficult section. So I really wanted to get my most problematic sections down before I went on to some of the more easier ones. So is there any particular section that bugs you a lot?
Yeah, same pinch maths here.
Math, anything else, or is it just maths?
No, maths is the only problem.
So you're for 2021, right?
Yeah.
I would suggest, so I would presume that you're done with your course. You're probably Shomo sir has taught you maths and stuff.
No, we have just started the
Oh, so you
syllabus.
joined late. Acha. You should first you should be get done with Shomo sir's classes. Pay attention in class. Don't zone out, please, especially in maths class. So other classes, I'll leave it to your discretion whether to pay attention or zone out. But don't zone out in maths class. uh, do follow. Solve the book first. Solve all your online tests, subject tests, topic tests, unit tests, whatever you have. Then if you have the time, which like your exams probably in June or something, uh, I see a question on the chat box. I will handle that in a bit. So once you're done with your stuff, and if you have time, your exams in June. So I'm presuming you will have some time. You should get a hold of R.S. Agarwal's uh, quantitative aptitude, but that's not going to be very helpful now with the new pattern, which is very heavy DI based. I think Shari Sir's updated the whole maths curriculum according to the new pattern. So you can ask him to provide you with extra practice material. He'll gladly give it to you. Uh, Stay in touch with Shomo sir and Shari sir, both of them. If you have problems, go ask them how to get through the stuff and everything. Maths is not a very difficult section, and you need to realize that you don't need to score 15 out of 15 in maths. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, brilliant. You don't target that. Don't make it an ego battle where you go for a perfect score in maths. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with.
Yeah, if you allow for a second question.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, during the CLAT exam, one thing that I have learned from my parents and from the social media, all that the main thing in CLAT is the time. More than accuracy, I think I have studied the time is the main factor. Is it so?
Well, you cannot discount your accuracy full, no. You have to be accurate, but yeah, time is a big factor. You really need to be fast with your reading and your comprehension and how quickly you get stuff. That is true. It goes for any competitive exam. You cannot go there thinking that you'll sit and spend 40 minutes on three questions or something. So you don't have that luxury. You have to be very quick with stuff, and that is true.
And which part is the most, we could say that easiest, and the which one on the contrary is the most hardest part to solve in the CLAT exam?
For
A
CLAT
section.
for CLAT specifically, if you have prepared well, like really done your homework, current affairs will be very easy for you. So you will take 5-10 minutes max to get done with that section. And that section is like what I think uh 30-35 marks or something. I don't remember exactly, but it's a very scoring section. So do try to master your current affairs. More often than not, you'll find that the people who are at the absolute top of the rank list, they perform really well in their CA section. So don't skimp on CA.
And the last one is, after the CLAT examinations, are there any options provided for the colleges, or what is the procedure after CLAT?
So the consortium will notify that to you. For my, what they did with my batch was that since we were a pandemic stricken batch, they allowed us to change our preferences after the results. So but it depends on what the consortium wants. I cannot give you a concrete answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, wait, so Shriya Kajaria, okay. She asks, I hope that it's she. Am I late if I actually start preparing right now? How many hours a day is enough? Keeping in mind I'm starting right now. No, you don't need to you don't need to freak out about whether you're late or not. You're preparing, you still have enough time. It's pretty okay. I will just enable like chat and everything. Okay. So you don't need to be worried that you're too late to the party. You are just in time. Just listen to what your mentors tell you. How many hours a day is enough? Keeping okay. This question depends completely on you. Some people study for 8 hours, 9 hours a day, which is mad. I will not recommend that. You could study for 2 to 3, 4 hours a day and perform really well. You could also study for 12 hours a day and perform really poorly. So this is completely up to you. This is not something any top ranker can comment on. I personally did not study too much for CLAT, maybe 3 to 4 hours max per day. But then I was very consistent. Consistency is very crucial for this. So, more than how many hours you're studying, you should make sure that you're studying every day. So, you're putting in regular work, you're not skimping on stuff. So, as long as you are consistent, as long as you're getting stuff done, you're gonna be fine. So, don't worry about that. Yeah, Pranav, I did give my CLAT in 2020. Okay. Pranav, do you have any additional question to ask?
Yes. So I had a couple of questions. Number one, since you gave CLAT in 2020 only, for most part, you were also giving the new pattern only, like the GK pattern changed from before on, and pretty much the entire structure. So I think the paper that you gave, the GK was not the old kind of GK where they would randomly give 30 questions on 30 different topics,
Yeah,
but
it was the new pattern.
yeah, so like, can you give any advice on how to approach the new pattern GK?
Do you read a newspaper?
Yeah, I do. The Hindu every day.
Do you make notes?
See, like, I don't understand how do I go about the process of making notes. Like, I do take note of the important points, but I have a problem with retention. Like, many times I find myself forgetting the stuff, and so like, what approach can I take to make sure that I remember the news and I remember the relevant news?
Okay, remember that retention comes with practice. So you have to read that material over and over again. So it's like classic mugging up. There is no actual comprehension involved with the GK question GK section. You're just gonna have to like every week or every 3 days or every 4 days, you're gonna have to take out all your GK notes and run through them. Read them 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, how many times you want. So that's one. How to make a note of important points. When you're reading the newspaper, don't focus on local news, your city section, or what's happening in Bengal or what's happening in Northeast. Doesn't matter. Focus only on the national news, and focus on the things which are in vogue, essentially. So like if the current protests are going on, focus a lot on that. You can expect 2 questions, 3 questions from the farm bill protest. So you will understand which ones are important and which ones are not important. For example, if there's this, this bit small snippet about some person getting an award, that's obviously not important for you. So keep that in mind. Focus on the headline grabbing news. And that's it. I think you're getting GK supplements as well from Opus, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so revise them, use them for revision.
Okay,
They're
understood. And
Yeah.
I had one more question. Like, do you have any? So more often than not, like with the current pattern, what I found was that in the previous pattern of legal reasoning, the pattern where they had principle, statement, facts, options, wala setup, I used to find that I was able to score very well in that because it did not take up much time. But in the new pattern, I consistently find that out of the 38 questions, I am always incorrect in 9 to 12 questions. So, like, how do I manage the shift from the old pattern to the new pattern? Because in the old pattern, I was very able to score very well.
Okay. Old pattern is still relevant for your AILT, so it's not completely irrelevant, and it's still going to be the bulk of your practice material, because the past papers for CLAT only have one question paper from this year, so the other papers are all the old pattern ones. The trick to solving, it's not even a trick, but it's more of a method to getting good scores in legal reasoning for the new pattern CLAT, is reading very with a keen eye, essentially. So like figuring out where that principle is and then applying that. The principle will always be given in the fact situation itself. You just need to figure out which portion or which line or what paragraph is important for you to use as a principle. If you're having like specific problems, you should probably sit down with Rishad sir one day and try to figure out where you're going wrong.
Okay. And one last question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, do you have any tips on how I can, since most of the paper is based on how fast you can read, do you have any tips on how I can improve my reading speed in general?
Do you read books?
Yes. I like not very recently, but I did used to read a lot.
Okay. So, what kind of books do you read?
For the most of it, like novels, Jeffrey Archer, Dan Brown, stuff like that. But now it's primarily only the newspaper.
Do you read the editorial section?
Yeah, I started very recently after Shorisa asked me to.
Okay. Try speeding up how quickly you can read the editorial section. That is your key to building speed. So, how
Okay.
long do you have any rough approximate of how long you take right now to finish the 2 pages of the Hindu, which have the 2 editorial sides?
Like I, so the problem is I'm not able to understand. So I can read through the entire section in I presume like 15-20 minutes, but I'm not sure as to whether or not I'm retaining everything that I'm reading. Like I can read very fast, but that is not the only factor, right? I need to understand what I'm reading. Like,
You don't need to retain every single point, full stop, comma, verb, or whatever, like all that stuff. You need to get the crux of it. Are you getting the crux of it?
yeah, I understand what the article is trying to convey. Yes.
So just build on that, keep reading. If it helps, try making notes on the margins. That might help with retention. So if you see a very important argument or a very important line of thought, note it down.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Uh, Akash,
Yeah, hi. So, Karan, we joined for the 2 year course. I joined for the 2 year course. So, around what time did you like regularly start giving the sectionals and tests? Like, how many hours a day should I devote to it? I'm giving CLAT
I
2022. So,
you're for CLAT 2022.
yeah.
Okay, so you have time. You need not be very gung ho about sectional tests or topic tests or something right now. You can take out some time on your weekends regularly to do mocks. Like spend 2 hours doing a mock, then maybe 1 or 2 hours doing sectional tests. That's it. Your mock and testing will pick up pace in as your exam approaches. So that's after June 2021.
So like when do the current affairs become most relevant for my exam in 2022?
Traditionally, so the CLAT conveners will tell you you need to read 1 full years of current affairs. So from starting from the month in which the CLAT was conducted to the preceding month of the following CLAT. I would I would advise that you study 9 months worth of current affairs, not 12. It's if you have time, if you want to study 12 months worth of current affairs, go ahead. But I personally studied only 9 months of current affairs, and when revising, I think Shari sir told me this. I used to go backwards. I used to study May, April, March, February, January, December, October, November, October. So that's a very helpful strategy because most of your CA comes from the later months. It does not come from the like no one's no I don't think anyone's going to ask you what happened in July of 2021 when you're writing an exam in May 2022, right? So don't read the 9 months of GK, and when you're revising, go backwards.
Okay. So what stream had you taken for 11th and 12th grade?
Commerce.
Commerce. So did you have any trouble like coping with the pre-boards and stuff because yours is also high pressure? So
Yeah, throw away your pre-board marks, and they don't matter.
what about the board?
Board marks matter, yeah. So study hard for your boards. I think you'll get. I got 2 to 3 months of prep time, so I completed my entire
Okay.
syllabus. Then I got a 95.5% in ISC, so it's pretty okay. So boards matter, but your pre-boards don't matter. Don't worry too much about your pre-boards.
So around that time, full focus on CLAT.
Yeah, sure.
And anything about extracurriculars?
I was with the school band. I played at multiple fests. I was their lead guitarist for 2 years.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Shreyas, dear, might I just ask, how much did you get for your rehearsals and like pre-boards?
My pre-boards, I think around 75 to 80% or something in that range.
Okay, okay. And what about maths? What was the weakest subject in school in pre-boards? Weakest subject?
I didn't have maths.
Okay, okay. So you took commerce and political science.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so my marks in like all my subjects in ISC was 90, 95, 90, 90 up, 95 up. So that was not a problem. Pre-boards, I didn't care much.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So, okay. Udita has asked which books to follow for 2022. Books as in, like, could you elaborate on that? Do you mean like vocabulary books or prep books? Prep books. Your opus material. Ooh, that's a non-starter. You don't need anything more than that. That's more or less it. If you want to practice more, like go like more in depth, you should sit down with Shari sir and he'll give you a lot of suggestions. I think he'll give you the LSAT prep tests, he'll give you GMAT stuff, but that's very high level. You need may not you probably don't need it. Your opus books are more than enough.
Means for giving CLAT, we have to only follow the opus books and that's all.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did. So personal experience, that's what I did. It paid off.
Okay.
Pratyasha, okay. What was your strategy behind time? So you could discuss that on another. Time management is something I you should not go into the exam thinking that I'm going to devote 30 minutes to GK or sorry 30 minutes to maths or 20 minutes to GK or something like that. It depends completely on your paper. Some papers you can do the GK in 5 minutes and the legal can take 40 minutes. So you should not have that mindset where you block a particular time frame into your head, and then if things don't go according to that time frame in your exam, you start panicking. So that's a very wrong approach. Which ones to focus more on? To quote you to read deeply. Focus on English. Like read English very properly. Read the legal thing very properly. Uh, Logical reasoning are mostly like critical reasoning questions. So the more you practice those questions, the more you get the hang of it. So you don't need to read very intensely. You will recognize that what the argument is, what the assumption is, what the conclusion is, etc., etc. So English and legal, you must read very properly, very deeply, because you know, CLAT people don't really set very good papers, so they might leave very crucial information between the lines, which you may miss out if you don't read deeply. So that's my advice to you. Akash, you have another question?
Yeah, so I'm not quite well aware of the new pattern, especially as regards the legal section. So could you please highlight, could you please explain that?
The new pattern essentially claims to test your comprehension rather than your memory. And that means it wants you to apply your mind a bit more than you originally would in a CLAT exam. So with legal specifically, they give you a very big paragraph of fact situation, and they insert a small law principle or rule in that paragraph itself. You need to figure that out, like which one is the rule. Once you figure out the rule, it's very simple. You take that rule and you apply it to the fact situation. That's it. That's all there is for legal. So you should not be
Okay,
very
all
scared
right.
of. Pratyasha, if you have a question.
Yeah, as you said, like maths consumes a lot of time, even during the preparation and also during the exam. So can I just skip this maths in my preparation as well? I mean, I'm not going to do that, but I just want to take your advice on it.
No, no.
Like I'm very poor at maths, and because of it, I take a lot of time on. I give a lot of time on maths, and then also I can do that.
You're gonna have to work on it. You can't skip maths. I will very strongly advise that you do not skip. All of you, don't skip maths. Maths acts as a tiebreaker section. They say legal is a tiebreaker section, but it's actually maths. If the people who score like really top ranks have good math scores. So do not make that mistake. And if it's taking too long, you don't need to go for 15 out of 15. Do like 10
Mm.
questions, 12 questions. You're going to be fine with that. So yeah, you keep that in mind.
Well, thank you.
And I would recommend that you finish your prep material for maths and then you redo it. So like after a while, like if you make pencil marks or tick marks, remove all of that, redo the whole thing. The more you practice, the better you get.
Sure.
Ishika, Agarwal, do you have a question?
Yeah, so something which I have been noticing while solving questions is that the often the options which are given for the questions, in a few of them, especially for critical reasoning, I've seen, and even for legal reasoning sometimes, there are two options, not in all questions, but in a few, which are very close and they're sort of similar because they tend to go towards the same answer, but then they we can distinguish between them perhaps in one way, and that there's a very thin line between those two questions. Like that happens in legal reasoning and critical reasoning sometimes. So how do you suggest we tackle those questions? Because I tend to become very confused, and then I choose the answer which is wrong, and the other one which was also very close and similar, I don't end up choosing that.
This comes with practice. So when I started practicing for critical reasoning and legal reasoning, the new pattern, I used to get almost all questions wrong. Seriously. But over time, it develops. You start. So one thing I'd suggest in your prep strategy is that you practice these questions, your practice material. Once you're done with it, open up the answer key, see which ones you're getting wrong. Once you figure out which ones are the one, like which questions are the ones you are getting wrong, sit down and try to understand why you got them wrong. So that could involve looking up the explanation on the web, or if it's given in your answer key. If you still can't figure out where you're going wrong, you should sit down with your teachers. So who's teaching you critical reasoning? Ishika?
Surely sir is taking critical thinking.
Yeah, so you're being taught by the master himself. So when if you still can't figure out where you're going wrong, sit down with him. And that helps. That really helps massively. So I used to get all, like when I started prepping, I used to get all questions wrong, like all. Then I would sit down with him. He'd tell me, this is where you're going wrong. This is where your thought process is messed up. This is the fine line which you aren't seeing. So over time, it developed. Over like a course of month or maybe 1.5 months, I went from getting most questions wrong to getting almost all right. So that's how it builds up. Okay, does that answer your question?
Okay, I understood. Thank you.
Uh, Umang, yeah, I did give the LSAT.
Yeah, and as for the part where you spoke about looking for answers, so the current strategy that I have been following is analyzing my mocks. So whatever explanation is given for the answers that I get wrong, I'm mostly comparing the explanation of the answer and then trying to introspect. So will that work in the long run?
Yeah, it will. Plus, if you don't understand a question, even then, after sitting down with the answer key and figuring all the explanations out, you will always have your teachers to go to. Just put it up on your group or call them or whatever. Just find out why you're going wrong.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, okay, so Shrikanto is he asks relations. Relations is a very, I don't think relations is very important for your CLAT exam. It's important for your AILET exam. You will get 1 or 2 questions from it. I would suggest that. So for relations, if you open your Opus book, if you still have I think if that chapter is still there, you will find out a list of things where they have so relation questions have those mothers, fathers, sisters, brother, and all that nonsense, right? So in your book, there's a where like there's like for that you will have brother or for sister. So it basically tells you what that lengthy relation actually is. So mother's father's father, it'll say grandfather. So that's there. So you memorize that, you should be fine. That's more than that, like more than enough. You
Uh,
don't need.
uh, the confusing part is that suppose these types of questions like A says to B, you see that boy standing over there, and after that it starts telling that he's related to that in that process, and how is he related to me? All that stuff, It,
So do you make a tree diagram whenever you solve these questions?
yeah, I do, but it's sometimes confusing a bit, and I'm also facing a problem with syllogisms.
Okay.
These two chapters, that's it.
So both of these topics are not very relevant for your CLAT. They are very relevant for your AILET. Syllogisms, again, practice is key. You should make Venn diagrams. You should not use formulas or anything. I don't like using syllogism formulas where, if some term appears in the first line, so this is how it should appear in the second line and all that. No, just draw Venn diagrams. That's the simplest way of doing it. For the relations thingy also, your best bet is to draw tree diagrams. So you draw A, B, C, and all that stuff. You should develop your own vocabulary of signs. So don't go by. So what I used to do is in my relations practice, I always put the husband on the left and the wife on the right. And when I would, to signify marriage, I would put the Anderson sign. To signify sibling relationship, I would put the dash. So you need to develop this on your own vocabulary of signs, which you can use to express these relationships in that diagram. So the sooner you get that down, it's a smooth sailing from there on out.
So I have just another question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
So in some of the cases that I face the problems in the reading comprehension, in some of the passages they're really long. Like how to go, I mean, how to get over them. Like those are
Do,
really
do you read
lengthy.
editorials?
Yeah, I do sometimes, but like not every day.
No, that's the wrong approach. You're supposed to read every day. You have to read it every day.
Okay, I will.
You have to read it every day, and not only read it, you have to read it, comprehend it, and do it in a reasonable amount of time. So you can't sit with the newspaper for 1 hour. You have to finish that thing in those 2 pages of the Hindu in 15 to 30 minutes max.
I
So
read the Telegraph.
okay, I would suggest you stop. That's not a good newspaper. You should not read the Telegraph for your CLAT prep. You should switch to either the Hindu or the Indian Express.
Oh, will do.
Yeah. So the reading speed develops with time. So you should be consistent. You should keep doing it, and you should um, try timing yourself. So like, you have that smartphone stopwatches, right? Open it up, see how fast you can go.
Oh, thank you.
Pratyasha, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes. Do you have a problem if I ask you
No,
now? Like I had
no.
asked previously.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a big question that is, previously CLAT and AILET, those similar questions used to come there, and now it gets different because CLAT has changed its pattern. And so, how do you address? Because even in your time, the pattern had changed. So, how did you address that problem? Like, you had to practice AILET, you had to then practice for CLAT, and again you have to practice for ISC. So many things at the same time. So, how did you address that problem?
Uh, Sir, are you around? Sorry, sir. Sir,
Yes, I am.
so has the CLAT pattern really substantially changed?
I am sick and tired of mentioning the same thing over and over again. Remember, you and I, we had these conversations for hours. Actually, it's the same thing. Address it,
Okay,
please.
it's a window dressing change. It's not a real substantial change. It's still the same exam. It's formatted differently. That's about it. You don't need to do extra
But
preparation for
why is it practice now? We have to
even
practice differently.
no. Even if you practice the AILET legal reasoning questions and try doing CLAT legal reasoning questions, they are essentially the same. It's just that in AILET the principle is mentioned on the top. In CLAT, it's in the middle of the passage. You need to figure out where the principle is. So it's not a very substantial change. It's a very window dressing sort of change. It's a fake change.
But the other things like the sectionals, the CA thing, it's completely changed because previously we had to have the a question from the headlines, and now we have to address that very deep inside the newspaper. I have to read every line, and then I can answer the CA questions.
Okay, understand one thing.
Different.
If you have prepared well for your current affairs and you still can't answer a question in the exam, 9 out of 10 times, not even the top rankers can't answer it. So for my current affairs, out of a total of 36 marks, I scored 28, and that was one of the highest scores in GK for CLAT 2020. So you have to like
And
you,
how? What
yeah.
did you get in AILET? CA?
Let's see. I don't remember that. My AILET score was like 87.50 out of 150. So I was AIR 10 for
And you
AILET.
chose NUJ over NLUD.
Yeah, I'm an
And
analyst Bangalore.
yeah, why did you not choose Delhi thing? Because in AILET you had this privilege of getting into that 40 seats out of some 20,000 students.
Oh yeah,
It's really difficult.
for but I beat a much more tougher competition for CLAT to get into NLS IU Bangalore. So
Shreyas, real quick. It's like 40 seats out of 20,000 versus 60 seats out of 77,000. You know,
yeah, so you do the maths.
you know?
Yeah. So and
It
plus
gets really difficult for you.
NLU Delhi is a very good NLU. It's a brilliant NLU. But for the next 10, 15 years at least, it's not going to take over number one. So if you have the option of going to number one, you should take it, in my personal opinion. So I will not tell you which college to go to or which college to not go to. That's your choice. That's your call.
Okay, I have this last question. You
Yeah.
had commerce in your ISC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were studying BBLLB or BCom LLB, any one of it.
No,
Correct?
I'm studying BLLB.
And how did you cope up with it? Like from commerce to you get to arts. So subjects like pol science, social studies, those are missing in your subjects,
They're
right?
taught from the ground up. They are not so when you transition to a BA LLB degree, it's not like your professors are teaching you very high grade humanities courses which you cannot understand unless you have had a BA background in your 11 and 12. It's taught from the ground up.
Okay.
It's taught from scratch, so it's fine. It doesn't matter.
So it's easier to switch, right?
Yeah,
From humanities to
it's pretty
commerce
easy to
even.
switch. It's not a difficult switch. It's not a difficult transition.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.
Uh, Somsuta Paul, I hope that I did not butcher your name. Do you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I decided to sit for CLAT a bit late. So I have just joined the institution. So is it really very late to start?
No, I think I addressed this question a bit like a while back. It's not late at all. You still have time. You still have quite a bit of time. You just need to be consistent with your prep, be regular, do your tests properly, and it should be smooth sailing for you.
And like how to start means,
What's your
uh,
weakest section?
like though I have maths as a subject in school, but still I face some problems with math.
Who's teaching you maths?
Um, I don't know the name of the teacher.
Is it a big man with a uh, long hair and stuff?
No.
No, sir, are you teaching a maths?
I'm also a big man with long hair, which I cut off very recently. Shomos and I look like each other now.
Okay.
I don't know which, it depends on the batch, but it doesn't matter who teaches her, both
Yeah, so
it's
listen,
equally,
for
yeah.
maths, please do pay very close attention in your classes. Do not zone out. Note down all your formulas and everything. Uh, Finish your prep book, the one Opus has provided you. Finish all your tests, so online and offline ones. After that, if you're very interested in maths and stuff, so you can get your hands on RS Agarwal's quantitative aptitude, but that's not very recommended now because the pattern has changed. So if you want more DI questions, which are the new pattern questions, you should ask Shorty sir to send you some of his old files. He has a lot of DI questions for practice. So you do those and you are sorted. You don't need to worry too much about that. But do it regularly. Like don't practice maths once in a month or something like that. Don't make that mistake.
And just to add, we've added around 700 new DI passages in the student portal itself. It'll last them for years if
So
they
see, you
seriously.
you
Yeah, so
guys
it
already
shouldn't.
have access to like top notch material. So like get solving. Don't worry about it. Just start doing it. Uh, Tamagna, do you have a question?
Yeah, so my question was that I had heard that from NLU Delhi there is more chances of joining Supreme Court. Is it true or just a fact or a rumor?
It's not true. There, first of all, no NLU can decide your chances of joining the Supreme Court, either as a senior advocate or as a judge. That depends on your own personal caliber. But if we are comparing statistics, the current Additional Solicitor General of India is an alumni of NLS Bangalore. We have a lot of senior advocates now who have taken the senior gown. You have Gopal Shankar Narayan, you have Menka Guruswamy, Arundhati Kajju, Sajjan Povaiya. So they like really big names in the field. They are our alumni. So they're not NLU Delhi's alumni. NLU Delhi is very young. It's a very young NLU. So it hasn't had the chance to really establish that big alumni base, which we had the chance to establish. So point one, no NLU decides your career. That depends on you. Point two, if we are comparing statistics, we have the edge, so to speak. Umang, you have a question?
Yeah, where which is better, a private college or a government college like NLSIU or NLS Delhi or something like, or maybe OP Jindal? You have heard of the OP Jindal, Symbiosis or something? Which is better? I mean, just asking.
Okay, this debate. In India, if you can get to a very good public university like IIT or IIM or NLUs, choose them. Don't make the mistake of choosing a private college over them. The private colleges are your backups. You, if you don't get into the top 6 NLUs, yeah, okay, then you can go to Jindal or go to Symbiosis. But your first preference should always be the top 6 NLUs. You should not make the mistake of choosing a choosing a newly established, not so well known private university over a really established, really well known public university. So I got into Jindal, I got into Symbiosis Pune as well. But that's if I had chosen any of those two over the college I'm currently in, that would have been a very, very bad mistake on my part.
So Jindal considers CLAT marks.
No, Jindal considers LSAT India marks.
So you got into Jindal how?
I wrote the LSAT.
Oh, you gave the LSAT.
Yeah, I gave 3 tests.
Okay, so how much did you get in LSAT?
I was all India rank 87. My percentile was 98.3 percentile.
Oh, that's great. Congrats, man.
Yeah. Tamagna. Okay, wait. I'll come back to you a bit later. I need to I'm just gonna check the chat.
Just a follow-up question: how is like campus life in LSI Bangalore?
I don't know. I have not been to campus yet.
Oh,
We are all on lockdown right now.
Oh, that's sad. Okay.
I haven't been noting the newspaper important articles, so can I use the Opus supplements to substitute that for now? No. The Opus supplements are supposed to do just that. They're supposed to supplement you. They're not supposed to replace your original CA prep. That's your job. You cannot skimp on your CA prep. You have to keep notes. You can start making notes now and maybe ask one of your batchmates to give you the notes for the previous months. But I would really suggest that you prep for CA on your own, then use the Opus supplements to supplement your prep. You're not supposed to use it as a standalone. Is it necessary to give AILET after CLAT? I would recommend, yeah. AILET is very, very is a it's it's a no-brainer. You should write all exams. You should write AILET, LSAT India, and CLAT, all 3 of them, if you want the Symbiosis entrance test as well. So yeah, I would say it is necessary to give AILET after CLAT. How is life in NLSIU? I will address that question later on. Can Times of India be a better newspaper for reading the editorials? I would not recommend it. If you see, Hindu and Indian Express upload electronic versions of their paper, so please download that and read. I will not recommend TOI over either of the two. So you should read the electronic version rather than reading TOI. What are the advantages of studying in an NLU, especially in NLS? Well, you get that brand name and prestige and reputation of belonging to India's finest law school. That's there. That's definitely there. Yeah. You have a very strong alumni base to help you out. It's very easy to get internships and, dare I say, even job offers. So when I was like, so yeah, so that's true. That's there. Your your batchmates are some of the smartest people in the country for that particular batch. So that's there as well. You get really good people over there. I think those are the 3 biggest advantages you'll have in a good NLU over any other place.
Also, I'd just like to add, Rishabda, are you there?
Always with you.
Acha, Rishabda, we would like to discuss this because a lot of kids have this misconception about going to a top NLU versus job offers. For example, in the management consulting, investment banking space as well, and if you're from a top school in general, you're put on a partner track earlier, which is probably not valid for the lower reputed schools. And on top of that, the salary structures, growth within the organization, and all that. Would you like to shed some light on that as well?
Oh, sorry,
You
what
being
do you
an
want me
NLS alumni. generally, it's like what like massive advantage would a top NLU provide that a private college wouldn't? From our
No,
experience, we
no, I think Shreyas has already put it quite succinctly. I think the biggest advantage from a job perspective or from a prospects perspective is the brand recognition and the market perception. So there are some law firms, some companies which would only go to an NLS Bangalore to recruit only to a few of the top national law schools. So that advantage is definitely unparalleled. But
But
let's
on
say if
top
you,
of that, Rishada, I've always faced this, at least in the management side. If you're from a top IIM, you're put
Hmm.
on a partner track. Whereas if you're from a lower IIM or one of these private colleges, you'll have to work your way up in general. Does that work for law schools as well?
To an extent, yes. I won't say absolutely, may not be as stark or as evident as compared to the management guys, but definitely to an extent, yes. Like let's say a person from a national law school, a top 2 or a top 3 national law school, might make partner in 7-8 years in a law firm, but somebody else from another college, a private college, might take 10 years to do that. But then
Right.
again, there are exceptions which work both ways.
Always.
There might be
Always.
some, as in, at the end of the day, once you start working in any profession, for the legal profession for that matter, after 3-4 years, it's a level playing field. So then it depends on how you perform at work.
Exactly.
But yeah,
But then
the
obviously
initial
the
the
branding
initial
does work.
kickstart will definitely be there from a better national law school or a national law school as compared to a non-national law school.
Great. Thank you, Rishada.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, I hope that answers your question about the advantages of studying from NLS Bangalore. For example, I put a small message in the chat about how the exclusivity thing works. So, like, you could check that out. How did you manage or address your time for CLAT after your general studies? I wrote a blog post about it. I don't know if it's still up on the site or not. Sir, is it still there? I wrote a
Yes,
like
it is. It is. We are going to share it soon in the groups as well.
So I wrote a really lengthy blog post about how to balance time between your CLAT and your board preparation or something. So do check that out. I wrote it when CLAT was still in its old format. So the format structuring is different, but other than that, the general advice given there is solid. So that's the thing you should be hoping for, like trying to follow. Okay.
Have you taken Bhaiya in college right now? BA, LLB, BCom, LLB, what? Which one?
BLLB.
Okay.
Srinada Chatterjee.
Yes, so I just wanted to ask, what was your preparation strategy for the last few months before class?
My preparation strategy for
The last few months, like just before class,
oh,
3 to 4 months before class.
intensive mock testing, lots and lots of tests, lots and lots of late like consultations with the faculty and everything. So all that. It was I was not reading any new material or trying to get into anything new in those last few months. So that's there. I would really recommend that you do not like if your CLAT is 1 month away or something, you should not start studying something new. You should build up on whatever you have learned. So that was basically it. Mocks, tests, and revision. That's all. Nothing else.
All right, thank you.
Raika Banerjee.
So my question is, did you focus a lot on the past question papers?
Okay. You are a bit inaudible right now. Like, could you raise your microphone volume?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Today question.
Yeah. So, did you focus a lot on the past question papers and the modules?
For not a lot for CLAT after the pattern change, but yes, a lot for AILET. If you're preparing for AILET, those past papers are your Bible. You must study them properly and solve all of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Akash.
Right. So do these private colleges like Symbiosis in general, do they only accept the private entrance exams like Symbiosis as SLAT, right?
Yeah,
SLAT.
yeah.
So do they only accept those exams or do they take CLAT and stuff?
They only accept those exams, their own.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Pratisha.
I have just a one-liner question. Which all exams did you sit for? And which
CLAT,
all others do you sit as to?
CLAT, AILET, LSAT India, Symbiosis Law Entrance Test. 4 of them.
Basti. Okay.
Okay. Common. What is this question? Common from PYQs do come in AILET. Okay, so are you asking like if questions are
That's that
repeat?
you practice the PYQs from for AILET, so that's why I asked it.
Okay, common questions, as in the common questions between CLAT and AILET.
No. Common means the PYQs. Do they repeat their questions?
No. AILET
Yeah.
does not repeat questions.
So you just practice for the pattern, right?
You practice because they are like very important in your prep strategy to practice, but they do not repeat your
Okay.
question. They do not repeat questions.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so any more questions? Sir, are you there? Okay, Shrikanta has a question.
So currently, I'm facing a bit of problem with dealing with the ISC board examinations prep and the CLAT prep at the same time. Can you just give some advice on that?
Wait, I'm going to share something in the chat for you all. Uh, wait, how do you...
Are you looking for the blog post shares?
No, wait, I shared it. I don't know why it's not going.
So you could just send it to me. I'll put it up in the group.
It's gone.
Okay,
So
it's gone. It's fine.
download this post and read it. It's got a lot of, like, I wrote it down like in a long while ago about how to prep, how to juggle your CLAT prep and your board prep and everything. So if you have any more questions, I think it should answer most of your questions about your doubts about stuff. Prachi had a question regarding Calcutta University BLB. I would not recommend anybody, like, I would not recommend a CUBA LLB in this point of time, because but then, because first of all, it's not like CU is not what it used to be. It's decayed a lot. You are much better off studying in a good NLU than Calcutta University. Any more questions? Yeah, Akash.
Did you have NUJS as one of your priorities?
No.
Like one of your choices?
It was my third choice.
Second was Nalsar?
Second was Nalsar, yeah. In the CLAT preference list. My overall preference list was NLS Bangalore, NLU Delhi, Nalsar, NUJS.
Okay. So why not NUJS? Is there like anything wrong with it or something?
No. It's a, like, if you're given a choice between number 1 and number 3, which
Yeah,
one?
other than that, yeah, I get that. But I've read quite many articles on this, and many of them have differing opinions on what number 2 is. Some say Nalsar, some say NUJS.
You could take number 2 to be both of them together. The top 3 NLUs, the NLS, Nalsar, and NUJS, they're not very different in the terms of how they teach or how their graduate prospects are. So you need not worry a lot about that. But yeah, since we are the oldest NLU, 33 years legacy or something, we do have a bit of an old first movers advantage. Edge is there. Other than that, not much of a difference.
Right. All right. Thanks.
Also, guys, I think next week I'm going to schedule one of our kids for this year who's in NUJS, Ankur. He got NALSA, but he chose NUJS as well. So we can have a chat with him too.
Yeah, Ankur, like you guys, if you want information about NUJS and how NUJS is, you should talk to Ankur. Okay, one final question which I did not address. How is life in NLS? It's very unique. It's not, it's everything you imagined it would be, and it's also not everything you thought it would be. So like it's a unique experience in its own. I haven't like experienced the full campus life because I haven't got the opportunity to go to any NLS. But even like sitting at home zooming people and stuff, that it's a very great place. It's a pretty okay place. You'll like it. I think all of you will like.
Just a quick addition, Rishanda, would you like to share some light on your experience at NLS, campus life in general, so that Shreyas also gets motivated?
Shreyas doesn't need any motivation. He's already there. But yeah, I think any college life, any hostel life obviously has its charm. But I think NLS Bangalore perhaps has that added charm because of course, the people who you are going to be with, as Shreyas pointed out rightly, you're going to be with the so-called or perceived creme de la creme and smart people around. And it's a small community. It's what, 80 students per batch, or maybe now it's gone up. So it's about 120. So it's about 500-600 people on campus. So you get to know everybody quite well. And if you look at it from a perspective, you'll be getting to know also so many people who are going to be lawyers over the next 4 years or over the next 8 years. You're going to be effectively knowing 9 batches of law students, 4 batches senior to you, 1 your own batch, and then again 4 batches below you. So it's you're going to make some great friendships. You're going to have a lot of things to do on campus, extracurriculars, co-curriculars, academic stuff. NLS, as all of you know, I don't know if Shreyas pointed this out, another distinguishing feature about NLS is, of course, one which Shreyas regrets, is the trimester concept, which makes Shreyas go through a lot of academic rigor and other rigors. But I think that academic rigor also kind of hardens you up for the real life and trains you well and gets you into a groove and mold where you can take on a lot of things. So it toughens you up, as in you're always on the move, on the kill, etc. So it prepares you for a job, for any career that you want to take up later on, be it with a firm, a company, the social sector, court practice, etc. So it'll make a man or a woman out of you, and that's what we hope to see, Shreyas, 4 years down the line.
Yeah, sure, sir.
And advice for you, Shreyas?
And for people like Umang and all, once Umang joins NLS, he has to tell me in advance. So I'll tell the seniors there to prepare and give him a warm welcome with a lot of ragging.
Okay, so don't get scared of anyone. We don't rag over here. We don't have that. We have very chill seniors. So yeah, that's that. Don't worry about ragging. If there are no more questions, I need to go. I have a video conference to attend. So are we done for the day?
I think so, Shreyas, and thank you so much for your time. You've taken out time from your academic rigor in general.
I'm just gonna drop my social media handles in case you want to talk or something, like questions or something. Just drop a message, okay?
And Shreyas, I think very few people logged in this evening. Maybe before your other semester starts, if you get some time, maybe we'll schedule another one soon. And maybe you can join in with Ankur. That's
Yeah, I'll come by.
Sure.
So,
all right, Shreyas, thank you so much. I think I don't want to hold you up from your conference. Otherwise you're going to